All right, today we're jumping into a Supreme Court decision from 1998 that completely reshaped how judges in India are appointed. It's a really fascinating story about power, about process, and about the very architecture of justice itself. So let's get right to it. The case's formal official name is the In Re Special Reference Case of 1998. But honestly, you'll almost always hear it called the Third Judge's Case, and that's the huge decision we're going to unpack today. Okay, so to really get why this case is such a big deal, we have to start with who was making the call. The sheer size of the court that was brought together for this tells you everything you need to know about its importance. 9. Just let that number sink in for a second. In the world of law, getting a 9-judge bench together is a rare event. It's something reserved for only the most critical, most fundamental constitutional questions. Yeah, a 9-judge bench, that's not something you see every day. It's basically a giant flashing sign from the Supreme Court saying, hey, pay attention. This is absolutely critical to how our democracy works. So you've got this supergroup, 9 of the country's sharpest legal minds, all in one room. The big question is, what did they come up with? And it turns out how they decided was almost as big a deal as what they decided. Unanimous. I mean, think about that. It is hard enough to get a few friends to agree on where to get dinner. Getting 9 Supreme Court justices to all agree without a single dissenting voice on a major constitutional issue, that sends an incredibly powerful, crystal clear message. Now, it's super important to know this ruling didn't just pop up out of the blue. The court was actually building on an earlier landmark decision, the Second Judge's Case. So you can think of it less like they were building a brand new house and more like they were reinforcing the very foundation of a house that was already there, just making it stronger. So how did they do that? How did they go about strengthening that foundation? Well, that brings us right to the heart of the matter, the one specific structural change that this case is famous for. First things first, what even is the Collegium System? In simple terms, it's the group of the most senior judges, with the Chief Justice of India, the CJI, at the head. They're the ones who really have the final say on who gets to be a judge in the high courts and the Supreme Court. And here's the game changer. The Third Judge's Case totally shook up the makeup of that group. The ruling expanded it so the Collegium would now be the Chief Justice of India, plus the 4 next most senior judges on the Supreme Court. And that brings us to our new magic number 5. So we went from a smaller group to a 5-member body. Why? Well, the core idea was to make the whole process of picking judges more of a team effort, a more consultative affair, right at the very top. Okay, so a 9-judge bench unanimously decided to add a couple more people to a committee. You might be thinking, what's the big deal? But this seemingly small tweak had some really huge, lasting impacts. At the end of the day, the biggest takeaway is this. It made the Collegium System stronger. By bringing more voices into the room, it ensured that the selection of our country's top judges wasn't just in the hands of 1 or 2 people. It became a collective decision, which makes the whole system more robust. All right, let's do a quick recap. We had a massive 9-judge bench. They delivered a powerful, unanimous opinion. They didn't reinvent the wheel, they built on what came before. And the big change? They expanded the Judicial Collegium to 5 members. The bottom line, it all worked to strengthen the entire judicial appointment system here in India. And that really leaves us with something to chew on, doesn't it? This whole landmark case, when you boil it all down, was about changing the number of people in a room making a decision. It really makes you think, how does the simple internal structure of any powerful institution, be it a court or a government, ultimately define the very nature of its power?